Hi everybody, I'm Samantha, the creator of Evology, Yoga, and Wellness. I want to thank you for joining my video today and allowing me to guide you through your practice today. For today's practice, we'll need our mat, a blanket, at least 2 blocks, and you want to set yourself up close to a wall. We're going to be in asanas that our legs are extended up the wall. It's very peaceful and restful poses. So our flow and practice today is going to be very slow moving, holding poses for a few breaths. And during today's practice, I'll go through the flow on one side, and then you would be able to pause, go back, and then rewatch the video and practice on the other side. So I'm just trying this out and seeing how it goes. So if there's any comments or suggestions, please let me know as well. I appreciate it. Today's practice is going to be about dealing with loss and grief. It seems like since 2020, everything has just been heightened. And in my personal life, there has been a lot of loss and grief just in the past 10 months, really, from uprooting my life, from moving, to losing 2 family members that were very close and dear to my heart. So just with everything going on, I think a lot of people deal with things in a different way. I want to share my yoga practice with you. It's the best and most healthy way for me to deal with things, and I just want to be able to share that and help anyone that I can. Again, if there's any questions, please let me know. You can let me know in the comments, or you can go to Evology Yoga and Wellness and send me a direct message on Facebook or Instagram. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started today. We're gonna come into our standing position and come into mountain. About feet hips width apart, hands down by the side. Just coming into your breath. Just inhaling, holding the breath, and exhaling out your nose. Equal inhales, equal exhales. Inhale. And as you exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, extending your spine. Exhale, forward fold. On your next inhale, reverse swan into mountain. Coming into chair pose. And we're going to wrap our left arm around our right, coming into eagle. Getting a good stance and wrapping your right leg around your left. To intensify the stretch, you can come down a little further if you can. And if it feels good, just a rest here and finding some stillness. Untwist, coming back into upward salute. And we're going to move into a wide-legged stance here, coming into a wide-legged forward fold. You can have your hands at heart center, extended out to your side, wherever you're comfortable. But before we go into the pose, just grabbing a block and keeping it close by, within reach. We're going to be moving into forward fold, and then we're going to move into triangle pose. So for our wide-legged forward fold, placing your hands, taking an inhale, and as you exhale, slowly forward fold at the hips, rounding down with your spine. You can grab your block here to create some height to bring the floor closer to you if you need it. And if it feels good here, you can bend your knees, providing some release and comfort for your low back, hamstrings, maybe your calves. Just letting your head hang here. Just resting for a few minutes. We often carry stress in our shoulders, so sometimes just letting our head dangle, our arms hang side to side. And as we walk our hands over to the right side, we want to adjust our foot so our toes are pointing to the top of our mat. If you need it, grabbing your block, planting your right hand, opening your left, extending your arm towards the ceiling, and coming into triangle. Bringing your left hand back to meet the right. You can swing your arms up for upward salute and coming into warrior one. Adjusting your stance if you need to. You can also move your back foot into a 45-degree angle if that feels better. From warrior one, moving into warrior two. Again, adjusting your stance if you need to go a little bit deeper for a more intense stretch. Taking a few rounds of breath with each pose. When you feel ready, just gently coming out of each pose, lengthening and straightening your leg, and coming into a stance that's just a little bit wider than your hips. Keeping your hands at heart center. Inhale, and as you exhale, starting to bend your knees and lower down into a yogi squat, lengthening your spine, taking your elbows, applying pressure to the inside of your knee, if it feels good. Or just remember, this is your practice and wherever you're comfortable. After a few rounds of breath, on your next inhale, slowly coming up to rise and coming into mountain. Inhale, holding the breath, and as you exhale, forward fold. Walking your hands towards the top of your mat, coming into downward facing dog. On an inhale, rising onto your toes, lifting your right leg and extending it back behind you for three-legged dog. On your next exhale, bringing your leg forward into pigeon. This is another great pose to have a block nearby. You can place the block, again, playing with the different heights, and you want to have your left leg extended back behind you. This is another great modification to kind of use your wall for stability here. And playing with the adjustment of your right leg. The goal is to eventually have your foot out, so your leg would be at a 90-degree angle. Not everyone is going to be able to do this. This is can be a very intense stretch and an intense pose. Just coming into it, just slowly taking your time, resting your hands on the mat, giving yourself support. And if it feels good, you can take your blanket and kind of lay it across your mat here and almost fold over. Or you can come into more of a Sphinx pose, resting on your forearms. Taking a few rounds of breath here. When you're ready, slowly lifting, coming back, with your hands underneath your shoulders, propping yourself up with your left foot, with your left toes, lifting, coming back into downward facing dog. Extending into three-legged dog. Coming into warrior one. Adjusting your stance if you need to. And into warrior two. And I'm going to flip around here so you guys can see. But we would be going into goddess pose, so just a little bit wider than a yogi squat. And you can adjust your stance here. But on an inhale, bringing your hands into a cactus shape. And as you exhale, slowly lowering down into goddess pose. Again, you can adjust your stance here, creating a little bit of movement. Just coming into comfort and just settling in. Coming into your breath. On inhale, coming up to rise. Your feet and palms come together. And you can repeat on the other side. For the next portion of the video, we're going to do more seated positions. So we'll come into child's pose. And for these, you'll want to have at least your block close by, again within reach, and your blanket as well. So coming into child's pose, and again, we'll just practice on one side of the body. You can pause the video, go back and rewatch it and practice on the other side. Lowering down as you exhale, coming into child's pose. From child's pose with a slight lift, and on an inhale, walking your hands over to the right side of your mat, feeling the intense stretch in your left side body. Staying here for a few rounds of breath. When you're ready, walking your hands back to center. Coming into hero's pose, just sitting on your heels, your knees together. And we're just going to slowly forward fold here, so keeping a block close by. And we're just going to just slide our hands and then just to start to walk them forward. This can be an intense stretch as well, especially for the low back and shoulders. If it feels good here, just to stay in stillness and to lengthen your spine. If you feel like going deeper into the stretch, you may want to rest your hands on, or your forearms on the mat. Using your block maybe to rest your forehead on as you fold forward. When you're ready, slowly walking your hands back towards your knees, coming back to center. And we're going to move into a back bend here, camel pose. You can keep blocks nearby. This is another intense stretch. It's a heart opener. So again, just being careful, listening and being mindful of where your body needs to be. But from hero, we'll come onto our knees. Taking a few rounds of breath here, and when you're ready, rolling your shoulders back and placing your hands behind your hips. And as you start to lean backwards, gazing back behind you, you want to push your hips forward as you round back. And this is a good place for you to have your blocks nearby. You could place them here, or if you're comfortable, you can go full into Camel Pose. Placing your hands on your heels, looking back, and opening your heart and your chest. Just as you came in, going in the same direction, coming up, being careful of the placement of your hips, and slowly folding down into Hero's Pose. And only staying in Camel just as long as you need to, or your body's telling you to. That's a very intense stretch, and just being careful. From Camel, we'll move into cow face. So placing our hands just in front of us, moving your right leg on top of your left. This is another great place for a block. You can place it underneath of your hips, or maybe to sit on the block as well. Just playing around with what feels best. Again, this is your practice. Take your time. Make sure that you're comfortable and that you're in the best position where your body needs to be. So once your right leg is over your left, you want to take your right arm and bend it back behind you. Take your left arm and bend it up. So hopefully your fingers can touch, and you can just pull your right arm down and your left arm up. Gazes forward, lengthening your spine. Staying here for a few rounds of breath. When you're ready, slowly releasing. Hands down by your side. Hands out in front of you. Bring your right leg back to center and coming into tabletop. And we're going to take a few rounds of cat-cow here, and just remembering with your breath, inhale to open your chest, and exhale to close. Cow, exhale into cat. Taking a few rounds on your own, taking your time, finding your breath. And when you're ready, propping up your toes, lifting your hips, coming into downward facing dog. Making any adjustments here. Rolling forward into plank, taking a breath here. And when you're ready, shifting forward on your toes, lowering down Chaturanga, upward facing dog. From here, gazes forward, lowering yourself to the floor. Placing your hands beneath your shoulders and coming into baby cobra. When you're ready, propping yourself up and sliding your hips down to your heels for child's pose. Okay. Minnie, stop. When you're ready, just propping yourself up enough just to thread your right arm underneath of your left, shifting your gaze towards the left and under your arm, or thread the needle. When you're ready, unthreading your arm from underneath and finding yourself back in Hero's Pose. When you're ready, and if you have the help from anyone, when they are ready, coming onto your back, grabbing a block, and having it close by. Okay, watch out. When you're ready, keeping your knees bent, the bottoms of your feet on the floor, grabbing your block, and on the low setting, just lifting your hips up enough to slide the block underneath and place the block on the flat part of your lower back. Just coming into rest here. There's a few ways we can modify this pose. So keeping our legs bent, or you can extend them out in front of you. Again, just making minor adjustments if you need. You can have your hands out by your side, maybe extended overhead. Staying here for a few more rounds of breath. When you're ready, bending your knees, lifting your hips and removing the block. Sit off to the side. And with your knees together, slowly letting them fall over to the right side. If you need to place a block underneath of your knees here, just for some support. We want the props to do the work for us because we need to rest. When you're ready, coming back up to center. And with your knees bent, bring them closer into your chest, interlacing your fingers and hugging your knees tighter to your body. If it feels good here, you can rock side to side, giving yourself a nice hip, low back massage. When you're ready, slowly releasing your feet to your mat, extending hands overhead, slowly extending one leg at a time out in front of you, and coming into a pencil stretch. And from here, you can take your time. So from pencil, we're going to go into a half moon. So reaching your hands over to the right side of your mat and slowly walking your feet to the right side of the mat. Feeling the stretch on your left side body. You're ready, coming back to center. When you're ready, coming up to sit. And this would be the part in the video where you can pause and go back and practice on the other side. Tonight we're going to finish with supported fish pose, and then we're going to extend our legs up the wall and then do a half tree pose, and then we'll move into Shavasana. So we'll need 2 blocks nearby. The first block we'll place on the high setting or medium, depending on where you need it to be. And then the second block is actually going to go just right in between your shoulder blades. So we want it to be just right about here. And you can adjust into a seated position. And if it's helpful, just to kind of lower down over the first block, adjusting where you need to be, kind of letting yourself fold over the blocks, and resting your head on the block on the tallest height. And if it feels good, and you can adjust it to the medium. From here, coming into your breath, maybe keeping your knees bent or extending them out in front of you, wherever's comfortable. And when you're ready, slowly bending your knees, and just coming up to sit, just taking your time, going slow. And when you're ready, moving over to the side of the wall, lowering yourself down, and as you lower, swinging your legs up the wall, extending both legs up the wall. If it feels good here, you can place a block underneath your head to rest. Just coming into your breath, finding stillness. When you're ready, on your next inhale, bending your right knee and letting your knee just fall open to the right. No need to force it, just as far as your body needs to go. And placing the inside of your right foot anywhere on the inside of your left leg. So maybe by your ankle, your calf, your knee, or down closer to the inside of your thigh. Wherever is comfortable here, coming into half tree. On your next inhale, slowly bringing your knee back to center, extending your right leg up the wall. On your next inhale, bending your left, letting it fall open, finding your placement, finding your breath. When you're ready, bringing your left knee back to center, extending your leg back up the wall. And from here, if you're ready to practice corpse pose, which is a traditional shavasana, you can go ahead and swing or roll over to one side, using a free hand to prop you up and moving into your pose, your shavasana pose or your shavasana of choice. This evening, take about 3 to 5 minutes for your shavasana during your practice, just trying to come into your breath, be mindful. And when you're ready, rolling over to one side, tucking your knees and resting your head on your arm, giving yourself a few more moments of gratitude and rest. When you're ready, pushing yourself up with your free arm into a seated position, hands at heart center. Namaste.